It is 7 o'clock on, what's the date today? The 24th. And the regular meeting of the West Valley School Board of Directors is now called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion to excuse Haley Larson from tonight's meeting. I believe she's out of town. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion carried. There's no changes to the agenda. And you are on, Katie, for high school ASB report.
Okay. Recently, last week, ASB paid for 44 students to attend a leadership workshop hosted by Johnston. Students learned from two great speakers and had the chance to meet students across the valley. So I went a couple years ago, but we get to go and compare leadership strategies. And it's kind of a fun field trip and a way to bring back activities for our school. This is a great example of how we use ASB funds at the high school with registration, travel, and lunch. This one opportunity costs about $2,000. So we're really grateful we have the funds to go do fun things like this. On February 18th, our Mr. West Valley pageant took place. After weeks of local business takeovers and fundraising efforts, it was exciting to see all of the hard work come together. The candidates have been heavily involved in the community, and the event has served as a reminder of how supportive and generous our community truly is. All funds raised were donated to Children's Village. We raised over $27,000 this year, and that puts the 25-year running total over $500,000.
Wow.
Congratulations to Mr. Lacey on this amazing tradition. On February 20th, ASB hosted the Rammies Assembly, a fun event recognizing our school's arts programs. During the assembly, the musical was advertised, giving students a sneak peek of the cast's hard work and building excitement for the upcoming performances. I think they play this weekend, so if you didn't get a chance to see it last weekend, you can still get tickets. During the assembly, the 10 Club revealed the girls who will participate in the Rams on the Red Carpet, like Mr. West Valley, but they're partnered with the Yakima YWCA, and the FFA Club got to promote their FFA Week activities. That's February 23rd to 22nd. So we had a dress-up day Spirit Week to support them this week, and we sent the wrestling team onto state and hosted playoff basketball as winter sports are wrapping up. ASB decided to use ASB funds to send our pep band to state if that opportunity presents itself, and a lot of timing has to fall together, but the plans are in place to try and make it happen. Again, these day trips are over $1,000 each time we send a bus, so it's really important we get those funds, and I think it really makes a difference to have us all there, so it's fun for them to go. Students have already signed up for spring sports, usually the season for most athletes, and they start on March 2nd. The musical was performed February 20th and 21st, but if you didn't get a chance to see it, there's still time. Additional performances will be held Friday, February 27th at 7 p.m. and Saturday, February 28th at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. The cast and crew have worked incredibly hard and will love your support. Spring is just around the corner. ASB students are currently working on the spring committees and have begun planning exciting activities for the season. Our talent show, Ramapalooza, Spring Assembly, Tolo, Prom, Staff Appreciation Week, and lots of fun other small things too.
Very good. Thank you.
Katie,
Yeah.
what were some of the local businesses that you guys took over?
I know we took over one of them. I can't list them all right now.
Okay.
Outback Espresso, which is fun because I also went there. So, I can't list all of them.
Is it Mod Pizza was one of them I saw?
Yeah.
Can't remember.
I think they always do a takeover at Zesta's.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah,
All right.
Fun.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. All right, we are ready for our special ed presentation.
All right, why don't we go ahead and have the board join the audience so you can see the.
Good evening, I'm Stephanie Milton, the Assistant Director of Special Education, so I think just see one of you based on board, nice to meet you. So we're just gonna first give some updates of some numbers for this year. So we started off the school year with 780 students with an IEP who receive services within the district and are currently sitting at 840. So some of that is just early identification of our students 3 through 5 or transfer students coming in throughout the year, and then also initial evaluations where we're identifying students who need services. We have 133 staff members across the district in special education, both certificated and classified staff. And we have a new edition of what I'm calling the pilot year of our procedure manual, because we're just working on things and tweaking it a little bit. But Susan and I worked this summer and put together our 172 page, we have to say that, procedural manual, just trying to catch all those things that we need staff to be informed of. So it's electronic and available to them, and they've been helping us go through and give comments on it, things that maybe don't make sense to them or things they have questions about. And so it's been a good addition this year to refer staff to. All right, so here's some of those reasons we went from 780 to, what was that, 840, where we started off with our preschool numbers. Each year we seem to be starting a little higher with more preschool students. Our students 3 through 5 are getting identified for those services they need, sometimes speech only and other times more supports. So there's the growth that we've seen, pushing 60 students in preschool over the year, and that transitional kindergarten is, those students are identified earlier, and that stays pretty consistent through the year. This is just numbers across the district of students within, how many students within each building that receive services, and also another way to kind of think about it. We see a pretty good trend of elementary falling between 15 and 20% of the enrollment receiving services. And then as we get up to the high school, it's more like 9 or 10%, which is really good to see. That's what you want to see. We're identifying students early, serving those needs. Students are growing, and even more with inclusionary practices, helping those students by the time they're in high school. Even when things are getting a little harder, they have grown their skill enough that they no longer need that support. They may still need a 504, which gives them accommodations, but they're not needing that specially designed instruction as much. And here's a look at that least restrictive environment data. So when we see our LRE1, so we're looking at what we want to see is our students spending more than 80% of their day in a general education setting. So they may be getting their services within a special education setting. They may be receiving their services within a co-teach, like at the high school, a co-teach math class, or in a general education English class where teachers offer support to those general education teachers. So what we've seen here is we want to see that blue tab go up. The yellow is where we're showing students who are receiving or only in their general education class for less than 40% of their day. And sometimes that's what's appropriate, and that's what their students need. The students need at that time to receive growth on their IEP goals. We want to have more inclusive practices as much as possible where students are with their non-disabled peers. That helps them be more successful after high school. It helps them grow their social skills, expand their friend group, and overall be more successful. So as much as we can get them out there where it's appropriate, we're trying to do that. That last one there, the last column is just seeing in comparison to Washington State. So we're doing a little better at getting students out in the general education general education setting as much as possible. We've seen a lot of growth with that middle where they're between 40 and 80%, growing into that more than 80% in a gen ed setting. So we just want to start working on usually our students are in a self-contained setting, pushing them out as smart, a little more. What this doesn't show in the numbers is we do have more students who are getting out into a resource room for their English and math. So it is a little more rigorous environment, a little more structured like a general education setting. And so that just doesn't show in the data, but it helps us get to where we want to get with helping students be in a general education setting more.
All right, so that was just kind of an overview of special ed this year. Peter asked me to present on our district behavior team, which has had some significant changes this year. So just to give you guys some updates on that. So last year, we set a goal that for this school year, the district would employ enough behavior support staff that every elementary school building would have a dedicated behavior specialist or BCBA, which is a board certified behavior analyst, and I'll talk about that in a second. The behavior team are all district level support staff. So the goal is to have someone available to every elementary school, but we might have some schools that don't have a need for a behavior specialist, and we might have a school that has a bigger need. And so it's really more flexible and fluid, and they're being able to place them where the need is at. Staff are assigned to a building, but they may be assigned elsewhere based on student need. We continued the behavior specialist position at the middle level campus, and then Stephanie and I continue to support at the IC and the high school. So just to let you guys know the difference between a behavior specialist or BCBA. So our behavior specialists in the district hold a teaching certificate through OSPI, and or they have additional training in working with students with significant behavior and social emotional skills and deficits. And all of them at this point are pursuing national board certification as BCBAs. We only have one behavior specialist who doesn't hold a certificate through OSPI, but we stole her from Children's Village, and she's got a lot of training working with kids with significant behavior, so and is pursuing her BCBA certification. So BCBA is Board Certified Behavior Analyst. This is a national level certification. In order to receive the certification, you have to hold a master's degree, which includes completing 315 hours of behavior analytic coursework. You have to complete a 2,000-hour supervised fieldwork experience, and then you have to pass the certification exam. So it's more than just kind of a weekend workshop and you get to have these letters behind your name. There is quite a bit of training that goes into becoming a BCBA. So our behavior team this year, our behavior specialists, Charity Caprile is working at Apple Valley. Delaney Russell is at Cottonwood. Megan Jennings, who's in the audience tonight, is our behavior specialist at Summit View. Starlet Burnett has kind of been our floater. We've had some students with some significant challenges, and she's kind of been our floater this year and helping support those students more one-on-one and doing training with some staff. And then Michelle Palmer is at the middle level campus. And then we do have 3 BCBAs in the district. So Hannah supporting Autana. Stacy DeVette is a half-time school counselor, half-time BCBA at Mountain View. And then I am also a BCBA supervising all of them. We've also been able to hire some behavior techs. So Christine Hernandez works at the high school. She's the only one currently who has her registered behavior technician certificate. The other 2 are working on theirs. This is a paraprofessional level behavior staff. So they do a 40-hour training. They have to pass a competency exam administered by a BCBA, and then also pass a test to get their certificate. So more training than your typical paraprofessional. So we have 3 of those supporting this year too. All right, so why did we add more behavior support? Since COVID, anecdotally, I think all of the staff and the principals would tell you that we've seen an increase in behavior issues. Based on the research, there's a study published in 2023 where they're estimating that 20% or more of students now are requiring tier 3 support. So Pre-COVID, when we look at the level of supports, those tier 3 students were about 3 to 5% of the students that were needing kind of more significant individualized supports. And since COVID, again, the estimates are now 20% or more of students are needing that tier 3, either behavior, mental health, social emotional skills training. And this is not special ed students, like this is our gen ed population. So we've seen that in West Valley, just the significant increase in the number of students who are requiring more significant behavior supports. Also with PBIS, MTSS, that model, we really want to try and shift from a reactive to a proactive support for students. And when you only have 2 behavior staff for 10 buildings across the district, it's really hard to do that, because you spend a lot of your time just putting out fires, responding to crises, and it's really hard to do those proactive things. And so having more behavior support staff has helped us to be more proactive. We're identifying students who, they haven't gotten to that tier 3 level, and we're able to intervene at a lower level, doing social skills groups and some more targeted instruction with them, hopefully to prevent that need for tier 3 supports. We're focusing on elementary because we know from all of our research that early intervention gives us the most bang for our buck. So if we can intervene when they're young, intervene when they're early, remediate these skills deficits that are causing these behavior issues, we know that in the long run, that's going to save money over time. Having the behavior support, really focusing on those tier 3 students, has allowed our counselors to work with students with more internalizing behaviors. So those kids that shut down, they're not the ones being aggressive, they're not the ones having big blow-ups or meltdowns. And so with having the behavior support kind of focus on those students, the counselors now have more time to work with those students who previously were kind of falling through the cracks, because they're the students that just sit there and they don't do anything. And so, it's easier to ignore those behaviors. So we're now being able to address some of those things with those students, and they're not falling through the cracks anymore. So that's an important change. Feedback I've gotten from principals, I've had a few principals tell me that this was the first time they've been able to be in the classrooms and get all their teacher evaluations done, because they have this behavior support staff in the building and aren't having to respond constantly to behavior issues. And so that having the principals out, being able to be in classrooms, is going to really improve instruction for all students, because they're able to do that coaching and provide that feedback for teachers that they're supposed to be giving. And then it's more supports for students with no academic concerns who need significant behavior support to be successful in the gen ed classroom. So we have quite a few students who qualify for special education who have no academic concerns. The only concern is that social emotional behavior piece. And in other districts and in the past, those students would typically be placed in a self-contained classroom with students with significant intellectual disabilities when they themselves are at average or above average intelligence, and really just needed to work on that behavior piece. And then being in that classroom, having those behaviors, is pulling away from the students who need that specialized instruction. And so having behavior staff in the building has really helped us to be able to support and keep these students in the gen ed classroom, which is a more appropriate placement for them to teach them the skills that they need, and then also continue to give them access to the core curriculum. So what are the behavior specialists and BCBAs doing all day? This is not an exhaustive list. I think maybe last year someone asked me what my typical day looked like. With our behavior specialists and BCBAs, there's really not a typical day. We're shifting more to that proactive approach. So a lot of them do have schedules and have specific things on their schedules that are happening. So it's not a lot of reactive stuff. And we're making that shift. But here, some of the things that they're working on are doing check-in, check-out interventions with students, doing small group or one-on-one social skills or SEL instruction, supporting recess, right? So there's lots of behavior on the playgrounds. And so having behavior specialists who are able to go respond and teach those skills in the moment out on the playground has been helpful. Or offering alternative recess options for students who just can't handle being out on the playground with 500 other kids, making an alternative for them. Doing short-term one-on-one classroom support, skills-based treatment, doing functional behavior assessments and behavior intervention plans. We've been able to do some skills assessment and create some skill acquisition plans for some of our more impacted students. So our school psychologists are great. They can provide lots of information, but the skills assessments that the behavior specialists and the BCBAs do are a little bit different and can provide even more information to inform IEPs and help those students make more progress. We've been able to do more staff and parent training, so having more behavior staff allows, the staff training, but also the parent training component. So we have parents who are coming to us, they don't know what, like, they're having these same problems at home, they don't know what to do, and so we've been able to provide some parent training as well, which should help us see some improvements at school, giving parents some of those skills too. And then we're still kind of respond, like, we're on call to respond when those crisis situations do occur. Again, saving the principals and some of the other staff from having to respond. Now we have a behavior person in the building who can do that. And that is all I have.
Thank you.
Thank
Let's
you
go
so
back
much.
up to the table and then we can ask questions.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, and then I've had some staff send me some testimonials and stuff throughout the year, and I copied and pasted those into the.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I read those comments. They were very good. Yeah, interesting. Couple questions I have is, I thought I knew this, but I want to make sure. So how long have we had one per school behavior
This was the
specialist?
first year.
Okay, so you're saying that just even in this year so far, you've seen a significant change in classroom behavior just because they're in the general ed, a lot of them now.
Yeah.
And you have behavior specialists working with them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can give you guys an update at the end of the year, like,
Yeah.
we've have some anecdotal data that suspensions have gone down. So
Okay.
those are things that at the end of the year,
Yeah.
we'll be able to look at some of that, like the restraint and isolation data, the suspension data, those types of things, and how having the behavior staff in the building has
Yeah.
impacted that.
Yeah, that's
So maybe
great.
Susan share about last year, students were being served at Autana Valley and now they're being served in their home school.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we had, the self-contained classroom at Autana was our behavior support classroom for the past few years. And so those were kind of like our most, significant behavior students were all in a classroom, at Autana. A few of them, they needed that level, but a lot of the students that ended up at Autana were kind of like those false positives because we didn't have the support in their neighborhood school that they needed to be successful. The only option really we had was to send them to Autana, and then like very quickly with the level of support there, their behavior changed and we were able to transition them back. But we wouldn't have had to make that move had we had the support in the building. And then I think Nick Hartman shared a little bit, like, it is very hard on one building when you have the most significant behavior students that are just in one building. So having the support so that the students can stay in their neighborhood schools and we're not having them all in one building has been impactful as well.
Other questions or comments?
You had mentioned, pre-COVID, 3 to 5% were in the tier 3, and then now we're at 20+%.
Yeah, and I don't know that like I don't have the exact number for our district. It's just what the research is showing
Okay.
that and JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association, just put out an article
It's a
as well, and
nationwide.
they're looking at
Nation.
1 in 5 children have a significant mental health
That was my question.
issue.
Is it
Yeah, so this
specific
is more
to
like
West Valley, or is it-
nationwide. Yeah, I can again
Gotcha.
towards the end of the year I can give you some more like
And-
hard numbers. We are very data based and as behavior analysts, so
Yeah.
we're collecting data and I can share some more of that at the end of the year when we're able to kind of look at how things have progressed over the school year.
What is the process of the identifying the 3 to 5-year-olds. So you mentioned that we've got a big increase from 780 to 840. What's the process you go through in order to identify this at that age?
So a lot of the referrals come from Children's Village, who serve our birth to 3 population. So Part B is kindergarten or 3 to 22, and then Part C, which is special education for birth to 3 years old. Some districts serve that in district, but our district works with Children's Village, and Children's Village is the one who serves the birth to 3 population. So most of the referrals we get are from Children's Village. Every once in a while, we'll get emails from, preschool teachers, community members, parents who have concerns about their students, who would like to have evaluated at those younger ages. But yeah, the bulk is from Children's Village.
Yeah, maybe Susan could share some more about how our special education department and you yourself and the staff are such a big part of our early learning initiative.
Yeah.
And meeting with our partners from the community, and they know that they can pick up the phone and call you if they have a concern about a child.
Yeah, Stacy's telling them all the time, like, call Susan, we'll send a behavior person out, like, we'll send somebody out. And so, yeah, we do have good relationships with the community partners. And so when they do have concerns, they're sharing that with us, and we can get in touch with parents.
So even if a child is going to one of our neighborhood partner preschools, the child still has a right to special education services. And so we as a school district provide those services.
Yeah, so we have a few students who the parents chose to keep them at their preschool program that they were going, and we consult and do things with staff to support them to provide their special education services. We've got a couple students who attend EPIC on our school sites, who go half day to developmental preschool and half day to the EPIC programs. So yeah, there's lots of different ways that we're serving.
And you had shared that the research shows that early intervention really does make a difference. So there's students that might have speech as preschoolers, and then they do exit.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate what you guys do, and I know it is more than a job, it's a calling.
Yeah.
And so thank you for doing that.
So can you, if you go back to the slide where you showed the numbers of the overall, is it the first one?
This one.
Okay, yeah, so 840, that's just special, that doesn't include the kids that the behavior specialists are working with, right? Or does that include both?
Most of the kids that the behavior specialists are working with are on IEPs, so that would include them. But they're also working with students who are, they might be on a 504, or they're at risk. Like, we think they might need special ed, but we want to try, again, that more preventative and keep them from getting to that point where they might need special ed. So there are some general education students as well that the behavior specialists are working with.
Okay, so that 840 isn't really all inclusive. That's what I was just trying to figure out. So the behavior specialists are working with other kids that, like you said, at risk, but not identified in the program.
And our resource room teachers as well. So because they're doing more push-in and stuff at the elementary, like, if there's kids who need more significant intervention who haven't yet qualified, and the resource room teachers have room in their groups that they're pushing in to do, we're serving gen ed kids with our resource room teachers and providing them some more interventions and stuff too.
Okay.
Yeah, so really good question. So the 840, that's the number of students with the individual.
With an IEP.
The IEP.
Yes.
And so then.
Anybody for speech or special ed, plus an identified behavior.
Right, in addition to the IEP students, and there's students that have a 504 plan, section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. And that's students that may have a disability, but they don't need the specially designed instruction. So there's still accommodations made for those students. And also, like Stephanie had shared, sometimes a student will exit from an IEP, but then they'll still have the 504 to have those protections, especially when it comes to state testing and doing the SAT tests, and they go on to college, and they still want to have those protections of having a disability, but they don't need the IEP. So there's a lot more students in the district that have disabilities with a 504 plan that are not that 840.
So that doesn't include the 504.
That doesn't include the 504, right?
Got it.
Like the high school level 504 for 7%.
And you said
7%.
Okay.
And then IEPs are, I think, 9.5 or something.
And then my other question was, with only having like one so it sounds like you've concentrated your behavior staff at the elementary level, because that's where you have most impact. but having just one at the full middle level, is that enough? Or at the high school? Is that just- because 1,200 kids and one,
That's a
middle
good
school got the hardest.
Probably not.
All in
I mentioned Charlotte
favor?
is kind of an art floater. She's been helping with some of our students in self-contained with some behavior issues. And then Michelle Palmer, the program is kind of different at the middle level. She actually teaches classes for social skills and SEL and yeah, so
Okay.
she's not floating around the building or available as much because she is in a classroom teaching and for a good chunk.
That's cool to
of
be
her
able to
day.
do- teach the skills classes.
Yeah.
Okay, and then my last question is, so this behavior specialist program is kind of new and you guys have kind of implemented it this year. So what's next? What would you guys see as your next level of goals for what you would like to see?
Well, for me, it's inclusion, just beefing up our support for our students so that they're able to be more successful in general education setting and just expanding that. I think our elementaries are doing a really good job at that with the groups and pushing in. And I think the middle level is seeing a difference of that when students come in with some higher skills. But that, I mean, that's kind of my focus because I work mostly with secondary. It's just keep striving for better. Yeah. And what's best for the students.
And then behavior wise, I mean, it's been my dream in my 20 years working in school districts to have at least one person at every building. So having someone at the high school, and probably having that person help out at the IC as well would be probably the next step behavior wise.
I have one other question I wrote down, but so you identify a lot at that 3 to 5 year. Do you see, and I think I understand this from early intervention helps down the road, right? Do you see a lot of them not needing the IEPs and stuff later on because you're identifying them there so that number's kind of dropping off later? What would you say?
Yeah, so like
is
Stephanie
general?
said, the averages at the elementary is between that 15 to 20% of kids are on IEPs, and then by the time they get to high school, we're at a little over 9%. So we know that early intervention and them getting that intensive intervention earlier, eventually, yes, they do get the skills and catch up and are able to exit from special education.
A few quick questions. One of them is, of the students that we're seeing that don't have academic concerns, about how many is that?
I would need to pull the data. Right. Yeah,
It's right.
there's probably 5 to 10 at each building. that
Okay.
have No academic
Okay.
concerns and only qualify for social emotional behavior skills.
And so then it's probably just really good testing and figuring out early so that we can help them in that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then on the 1-to-1 ratios, that's probably not very common, or is there students that are all day 1-to-1 ratios or things like that?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have students with medical needs who need one-on-one support. We have students with behavior needs that need one-on-one support. Those are kind of the two main ones. With the behavior specialists in the building and having that support, we have been able to do some more short-term, like subs for a few months to get to implement some of the plans that the
Yeah.
behavior specialists want to do, and then we can have fade that person out instead of hiring I call them the Pizza Hut parents, like, because those are the applicants we get who have no training working
Yeah.
with children, and then we're sticking them with our kids with the most significant behavior issues. But having the behavior specialist to actually train the parents to work with the student and give them the skills that they need, and then fade that para support. We have seen more of that
That's
this year.
excellent.
So.
On a personal note, I've been able to see my son who was that 1-to-1 ratio and needed all of that support coming up, and he's in freshman in high school now, and his IEP came off, and he's functioning and he's thriving.
Yeah.
And thank you guys so much for all of the tremendous work at every level, at every grade.
Anything else, board? Okay, thank you so much. All right, it is now time, if anybody, we have one signed up for public comment of non-discussion agenda items, and I'm going to read our little disclosure thing here. Members of the public who would like to provide public comment will sign in. Speakers will be called in order that they are signed up to speak. Speakers will be given 3 minutes for their comments. Public comment is not the proper forum to address concerns about a specific staff member. If a person has a concern, they should make an appointment with the superintendent to address their concerns. Robert, you signed up, you were on.
Well, later on, you were going to discuss the bond. That's why I came.
Well, we'll wait till then.
Okay.
Then you can, that'll be our discussion item that you can speak on that. Is there anybody else that would like to make a comment on non-discussion items? Okay, I'll close that public comment. And we're moving on now to approval of the consent agenda. There are 6 items on there that we'll just take all at once unless someone wants to pull something out to talk about. A is approval of minutes, B is approval of vouchers, C is financial reports, D is approval of employment contracts, E is approval of resignation, retirement, and separation. And last but not least is F is approval of leave requests. Does anybody want to pull anything out? Okay, then I am going to make a motion to approve all 6 items on the consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion carried 4-0. Okay, now it's discussion items, and we're going to discuss the levy and bond review. And
Go ahead.
I'll kick it off. I don't think I'm going to pass this out right now. I might give it to you afterwards, but I did some statistical study, just basically the last 20 years. And so from February of 2006 to February of 2026, and no pro or con on this, just we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, now 5 failures and 2 passed, one in May of 06 and one in February of 2019. The sad fact on this vote was that in 20 years, this is the lowest turnout that we've had. I think this number is right, 6,677, something close to that. There was 1,935 less voters than in the 2019 bond vote. And if my AI calculations are correct, we would need, if we kept everything the same, we would need 1,773 more voters, and all of them would have to vote yes. And then there's all these other combinations, or 710 no votes would need to change to a yes vote, or they're a combination of both. Okay, so just looking at statistics, just anecdotally, I have ideas why some voted no, basically because I've talked to people. But I think we all have that, so we don't need to necessarily talk about that, but maybe we do. But those are just some facts. I haven't come to any conclusions yet, but I'd like to hear other comments from the board if you have any. I'm excited that the levy passed, so that was a positive.
I'm curious on your statistics there on the 2 that passed.
Mhm.
How many attempts do you know were tried before you got it?
If I remember right, I was on the board during the high school one, and I think that was 2 attempts. The second attempt, but I believe it was within 3 months. In February of 06, there was a vote that failed. The yeses were 58.32%. And then we ran it again in May of 06, and that was 61.37, and that passed. That was the high school. And then I believe there was 2 or 3 attempts for the elementary schools, and on the third, but I think some things were cut out.
Yeah, I think back in the high school, there was
Yeah.
actually an attempt when I first came to West Valley. It was like 2001.
Oh, okay. And
And
then they waited.
yeah, and they waited a little bit and then became very close, like the 58%.
Yeah, and then we ran it 3 months
got it
later
over.
and
Yeah.
got it over. Yeah, but on the elementary schools, I think they changed the scope
Right, there
each
was
time.
the junior high and the 2 schools were
Mhm.
first, and that didn't pass. And then they took the junior high off and did the
Yeah.
2 Apple Valley Summit View, and then that came very close. And then they ran it
Did it
again and got it over the 60% mark.
my thought is, I think timing has a lot to do, and just you know, because we're not close. You know, we're at 50%. Essentially, what was the levy was the bond vote. You know, and I think you go back to those times when it did pass. I would say the financial temperature was a good temperature. You know, economically. Whereas I think right now it's not, and I think that's probably a hard part of having it passed. And I think if we were to put it out 3 months later, my thought is I think we'd still be in the same boat, and I would not be in a rush to try to put the bond out again. That's, but
Yeah, you might be right, James. I'm curious though, because what we're seeing is just not voting.
Yeah.
It'd be more clear if it was no overwhelming, but it was only what 26% of the vote came in, and so it's
about that. I think.
yeah, it's less interest in the vote. And I would think that if it was no for the bond across the board, it would have just been more votes now.
What are you saying? The ratio would still be the same? I mean, it's
Yeah, so if it was because of economics, I would think that people would say no versus just not voting.
sort of like statistics. You get that many people polled. You know.
So do you think if you were to change it to a different time of the year, like maybe around election season when more people are out voting, you think that would get more people involved?
Like November, you'd probably see more people involved.
There'd be more things on the ballot.
I think a lot of it would be, some of the things we have to discuss too are, do we keep it the same? Do we cut some things out? Do we revise it? Do we go back to the facility committee? I think we didn't have enough support from certain, you know, you were looking at the demographics of precincts.
Yeah, the precincts. Yeah.
And we didn't have a group pushing it this time either, which most of the time we do.
I think that there just wasn't a lot on the ballot too. If you think about like people's voting habits, if you're going to fill out a ballot and there's a lot on there, you're going to fill out every box. You're not typically leaving a box empty, right? When there's less on the ballot, you may look at it and think, oh, I don't need to put my ballot in. There's nothing that I care about. I don't know if that's the case or not. But when you look at a low voter turnout, I think that there would be more ballots turned in if there was more on the ballot.
I think we need to look at getting our community involved. I think they didn't vote because they don't feel invested or involved or, want to participate. So I think we're really lucky that levy barely passed. We have a long ways to go on the bond. So I think we need to look to our school community and our larger community and find out, what would get them involved, because not even our own school parents voted, right?
Yeah.
It's such a low.
Yeah, we need to be asking a lot of questions.
And we need to have a community group of parents driving this, and not our administration or, but us as the board can also get more involved and, take that role on as being involved in the community, bringing the community together. And, I think I'm really glad the levy passed, because that would have been a much different conversation we're having right now, but it was really close. It was only a few hundred votes difference.
Yeah.
And we would be cutting budgets for a lot of things. So I think it's kind of a wake-up call that how close we were on the levy, and that we have some work to do in our community to get people feeling like they're involved in part of what we're doing and feel like we have buy-in. Because I think there's some past history of the last bond and the way I wasn't on the board, but the way the board handled the last bond, that we have some work to do there.
What would be steps you think, and maybe even looking in the past, that would have our community feel invested?
I just think it's the overall school community, right? It's not just about the levy and the bond. It's about everything. And, you look at attendance at events, right? When we've had that community forum about the levy and the bond in the fall, and there's like barely any parents there. So I think people are just checked out. I don't know all the answers. I just think we need to.
I mean, you're right about the one thing that I'm not sure how to. I've tried to talked to a lot of people about the last bond. Some of it was, even though totally legal, it was that excess funds issue,
Right.
right? Because we just happen to have all those excess funds. I mean, when I was campaigning 2 years ago, everybody, it's like, what would you have done with that? You know, I'm never voting for a bond again because you didn't come to us. And so I think there was a lot of trust lost at that point, but I think hopefully we're rebuilding that. And one of the policies that we're passing is hopefully going to rebuild that. But I think you're right on the building a community. I mean, you look at, without naming names, I mean, there's precincts in areas of some of the projects that we have that were non-voters. And those are in the area, that would be parents and teachers of those schools that we were going to build or fix. So that's going to be an interesting discussion too.
Yeah, maybe, there needs to be more time and explanation of the plan and get people involved along the way and not just kind of at the end, right?
Yeah.
There was that small group of facilities planning, but it was a really small group, I mean, less than 10 parents probably, because there was some
Yeah.
staff on there. So I think, the middle school parents and the junior high parents and the Patanon parents and the Mountain View parents need to want this as much as we do. And they need to understand why they need, why it's a good idea, and they need, so they can tell their friends and neighbors, right? And it was very much driven by us trying to inform people quickly and,
Yeah.
so.
I think at this point, I'm just shooting from the hip here. I think at this point, I think we need to digest this a little more and keep looking at some of these facts, and then start talking even individually as board members to teachers and parents in those areas that we all know. And then we're going to need to put this on the agenda again because we want to make a decision on where we're going to go with it, like who we've talked to, what are we thinking we need to do? Do we need to cut it back? Do we need to just have more active support? So we're definitely going to keep this on the agenda. And keep talking, but I don't want to cut off comments.
I think maybe something that we can all do is maybe talk to people we know and ask the why they voted no, just for understanding. I think we all know. I mean, talking prior to the vote with people, it was honestly about exactly the way the vote turned out. It was about 50% was for and 50 against. And so I think maybe just if we can do some homework and just ask the why, maybe more understanding about how we can. I think you bring up some really good points, Natalie. And so I want to understand all of that, and I want to go forward at the right time. My personal thought on I don't think the plan was part of the no. I never heard from anybody that said, man, I think that's a bad plan. If anything, I thought it was a good plan.
Once they understood the scope,
Right.
the sequence.
Yeah, I never heard pushback on the amount or the scope.
So, yeah, I think it goes back to a lot of these things we recognize, but I will make it a goal to talk to some people and ask their why.
Okay, is there any other discussion from the board? Otherwise, I will open the public comment time. Okay, public comment is open, and you are the only one on the list, so it is your.
I'm shocked that certain people didn't want to say
Well,
something.
someone else might want to. So you have 3 minutes or so.
Okay. Well, I live by the golf course, and the evaluation for my home did go up $100,000 in 1 year. But the year before that, it went down 50,000, so it was very, very consistent. I trembled as I voted yes. My hand was shaking as I was covering in that little spot. But I did do it. I think it was poor timing to have it while in February, that's when you're told what your taxes are going to be.
Yeah, it's true.
And that is not a good time. In November would be a much better time, I think, for a lot of reasons. I'm always shocked by the few people who respond in any way. So I called this morning, and over 23,000 ballots were sent out. Only about 6955 were returned in the entire county.
Mhm.
And this District 24.64 returned their ballots. So a lot of people just threw this in the garbage, probably, unfortunately.
Mhm.
My 3 minutes is probably about.
Okay,
finished, so
you're good. Keep
We'll give you
going,
the
keep going.
Yeah.
Uh, I was a teacher for 30 years, and then I was a substitute for 12 years after that. And one of the superintendents we had in Yakima decided that he would have a two-pronged approach so that no levy or bond would ever fail. And so at every event, he had an administrator make a little speech, like about 3 minutes, at football games, basketball games, music concerts, everything, saying thank you for your support, and your support is what creates this program. And it was really helpful. And one year, he decided that he would give each teacher, and there were about 900 of us, a list of 10 names and their phone numbers to call after the ballots were returned. I mean, after they were
Sent out.
sent out, yeah. And so we had gatherings and phone banks were set up, and it was a big social event for teachers. And we spent the whole evening phoning people and saying, thank you for supporting our schools, and we hope that you'll vote. That's all we were supposed to say. And a lot of times parents wanted to ask questions and things, and so they always passed. And that superintendent had a chance. He had his 20-year plan, and he almost got through it, but he had to retire. But they built a lot of schools, like Franklin Junior High School was replaced, and Washington, Martin Luther King, Adams, Ridgefield, and Roosevelt schools were all replaced during this 20-year plan, and they all passed. So it's parent support that is going to push it over, because that's the largest group.
Yeah.
A senior citizen like myself, we're a small group actually. People who've never had children, people who are on fixed incomes, younger people who haven't even registered. I mean, all those groups are minuscule compared to parents. If they vote as a block, they cannot be defeated. So that's the group you need to tap into. And I think his two ideas were good. They were very successful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
You're our new chairman for.
I've been on too many committees, including levy committees. But
Hey,
I'll
well.
attend the meetings if I hear about them.
But thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for your comments.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
There are no other signups, but please, if you want to comment, now's the time.
Just, it's a little awkward for me to be up here. I just had seen,
You state your name for the
my
record,
name is
please.
Casey Corey, about West Valley, my kids go to school here. Just a couple things, so it was about 3,600 votes is what we got, somewhere right around there for the bond and the levy. I think I saw something around 5,000-ish, maybe that number's off, okay, it's so somewhere in that range. So that's somewhere 13, 14, 1,500 votes where someone voted for the levy, they didn't vote for the bond. And the one thing I heard time and time again was people said they didn't know there was two things. A lot of people, I asked them, when you saw that, what'd you think? They said, well, it was an either or and I didn't know which one to choose. That's what I heard.
Really?
So I don't know if it was the bond was there's a big focus on that, and it was great, the levy passed. But I know that's one thing I had heard as I was reaching out. Unfortunately, it was a little too late. They had talked, they already submitted they were happy to pass that. But from what I heard, it's an either or. Just something.
Yeah, thank you.
That's good.
Thank you, Casey.
Before I close the public comment, anybody else? Okay, public comment is now closed, and we will keep revisiting this, so. Very good. Okay, action items, number 11, approval of travel requests. I think you all saw the one that got added for basketball. Yay, basketball boys. Mount Si on Saturday at 4, just a little plug there. So approval of travel requests for ROTC in May and ROTC again in March. They're backwards actually. And then the boys basketball in Issaquah at Mount Si. So we'll just take all these together. I'll make a motion to approve the travel requests. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion carried 4-0. Now we come to B and C, which is policy additions, revisions. We had a first reading. So 4,200, parent access and safe orderly learning environment, and 6220, the bid or request for proposal requirements. We'll just take those one at a time. First of all, before we have a motion, are there any discussion on 4,200 or 6220?
I'd just say I appreciate you giving me the time to digest 6220 a little more. So,
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Instead of me making motions, I will, somebody else want to make a motion for approving the first reading of those two policies, 4,200 and 6220.
I'll make a motion to approve both 4,200 and 6220.
Okay, motion's on the table. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Motion carried 4-0. Okay, approval of policy additions and revisions, second reading. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Most of them are just additions to policy, and there's 2 new policies: the accommodating students with adrenal insufficiency and the defeasance of surplus bond proceeds. I am going to pull out, for me, I have a comment on 5011. So I want to know, I'm going to pull that one out for right now to talk about that. Is there anybody want any others pulled out to discuss? Then let's start with, I will entertain a motion to pass the second reading of 1630, 2108, 3425, 6961.
Did you pull out 2108?
I pulled out 5011.
You didn't say 2108.
Oh, I'm sorry. 2108. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve policy 1630, 2108, 3425, and 6961.
Okay, thank you. All in favor of those second readings, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion carried 4-0. I'm going to be voting no on 5011, and I just wanted to make a comment, and then we'll vote on it, and it goes whatever way you want to go. I looked at it, and I'm looking at my stack of policies, and some I feel like are redundant. And on this one, it was based on the fact that the original policy without the changes that were added covers exactly what the policy is designed for. The whole policy in my mind is worded badly. It bounces around and discusses other issues than what the title suggests. They add the calling out groups of 14 to 15 groups of people. And in my mind, harassment is harassment no matter who it's against. And it's too wordy, especially considering that we have 6 other policies that discuss discrimination, sexual and otherwise. And then I looked up the RCW referenced in the policy, and it primarily deals with equal access discrimination, though it does address some sexual harassment. So I just feel like the change wasn't needed. I think it was just redundant for our other policies. So for what it's worth, it's not necessarily opposed to our other policies. It just seemed redundant to me.
I'd agree. I think broad is better on policy than specific, and the more specific you get with policy, I think, then it creates more loopholes, more work that you're putting on other people, and I think a broader policy tends to cover more. And we just passed this in January with a change, and so I probably agree with just keeping it the way it is. if that's what you're saying, that's fine.
That's my opinion, but that's up to you guys.
So this is existing policy and all that's added is the civil rights violations, right? And it calls out the civil
It
rights.
calls out all those names.
So you don't
Yeah.
like that being.
Yeah, I just think it's redundant to the other 6 policies that we have on the same
Well, the other
issue.
policies are around student harassment and this one is around staff, right?
Right, but then it sort of changes into students also part of the, like above that.
So if you don't approve this, you're just taking out the civil rights language. The rest of the policy is still as is.
Yeah, the rest of the policy still as is, and our other policies address that.
So Peter, do you have any background about why this language is added? Is this directly related to like the civil rights discrimination language that we were required to include, or? do you know?
Well, we had the first reading that was approved, and so I wasn't aware there was any concerns. So
Right.
this is the first I've heard about concerns.
Okay.
And on that fact, I'm happy just to pull it for right now and discuss it.
That might be helpful to table it at this point in time. So we
I'm
can
willing
more
to do
information.
that,
Yeah.
so I can make sure I'm not mistaken on what I'm saying.
Yeah, that'd be helpful because it does seem like it's something that we might need to have our legal counsel give us some
Okay.
opinion on.
Yeah,
So,
I'm happy to do that.
yeah, especially if it looks like it's 2-2 right now, or,
Oh, that's
or
true.
could
Yeah.
be 2 to something,
Yeah.
or 3 to something.
Yeah, no,
So we might as
that's yeah. I should have just started out by tabling.
Yeah,
it.
it's okay.
That makes
That'd be helpful if we could table it
That makes
and
sense.
get more information, and we'll bring it.
That
back.
would help. That would be helpful to
Okay.
me. Do I need a motion to table it, or just hereby table it?
Yeah,
I'll make a motion to table
Okay.
5011 and to get more information, and we'll bring it back up at a future meeting. All in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Sorry about that.
very good, thank you. And we will look into it and bring you back more information.
Okay, yeah, I'll get with you.
Yeah, great.
Okay, D, approval of resolution. This is delegating authority to WIAA. I believe we do this every year.
That's great.
And I will entertain a motion to approve resolution 26-02-788.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 2602-788.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Approval of the 26-27 instructional calendar. I will make a motion to approve that calendar. There's a motion on the floor. All in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion carried 4-0. F, I believe there was a typo. It's Asset Preservation Program Report,
Okay,
not
very good.
prevention. Preventing our assets.
Thank you.
And is that is something we need to vote on that?
Yeah, Mr. Walcott did contact me previously and said, now, is that a report or does it need to be approved?
It wasn't
I said,
clear.
yes and yes. So it is a
Okay.
report and it does need to be approved
Yeah.
by the board.
I trust you all read that, and I will entertain a motion to approve the Asset Preservation Program Report.
I'll make a motion to approve the report.
Okay, motion's on the table. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Motion carried 4-0. Are there any items arising, issues that may have come up since receiving the agenda? Hearing none, reports are in your packet to be read. Are there any questions on any of those reports?
I'll just say, I always look at the safety report
Mhm.
and I don't know, I was just encouraged at how short the safety
Mm.
report was.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it was about half the length it usually is.
Yeah.
So that's great.
That's good.
Okay, Dr. Finch, Superintendent's report.
Yeah, just want to make sure everyone knows that we have our All District STEM Showcase that's coming up Thursday, March 12th. So it's really quite soon, just a couple of weeks away. It'll be at the Innovation Center. It's after school from 5 to 7. And it's really a showcase for all the district. We'll have some of our elementary schools there showing some of the after-school STEM projects that they do. And then we'll have, of course, the Innovation Center. So really looking forward to it. We have some community partners that will be showing up as well. So it should be a fun evening. Lots of hands-on activities, and just want to promote science, technology, engineering, and math. Thursday, March 12th, 5 to 7.
All right, thank you. Board reports, board development. I attended Bye Bye Birdie. It was very good. They did a great job, so that was fun. And the night I went, I saw Natalie there and Peter there, and that was fun. And again, congratulations to boys basketball. And I stopped by the High Cap program last night to showcase, and that was very cool. And again, saw a couple of you there, so that was fun to attend. Any other board reports, board development?
I think maybe just the levy and bond. I do appreciate all of Peter's work on the levy and the bond. I think Mr. Swopes brought up a good point, and I think one of the things you did was announce at every event, or had somebody announce. So went to quite a few basketball games this year, and somebody was announcing it every time. And so, and then the phone calls and everything. So thank you and to everybody that worked on it.
Anything else? Okay, it is now 8:05 and this meeting is adjourned.
All right, I think we have some signatures here.
Yeah.